You're crazy. Get help. Stop being weak and just think positive. Pull up your socks and get over it already. Let her be. She's just depressed. Do any of these phrases sound familiar to you? These are phrases commonly used to demean people, typically with a mental health illness. And unfortunately for them, hearing this is somewhat of a daily occurrence. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Vedanshi Joshi, and hopefully today we can conquer the barrier between individuals and supportive care by defeating the stigma around mental health together. So, how many of you know someone with a mental health illness? You can just put your hands up. Thank you. According to the WHO, 25% of people worldwide, that is 1 in 4 individuals, currently have a mental health illness. And around 50% of people will experience a mental health illness at some point of their lifetime. This is a shockingly common statistic, and unfortunately, we don't talk about the topic as openly as we should. This lack of discussion reflects a deeper problem: society's reluctance to accept and understand mental health conditions and the stigma attached to them. Now, I want you to think of the person that you know with a mental health condition. Have you ever viewed them differently because of this? Have you ever perceived them in a different light? It is okay to admit so, because that is what stigma is all about. People with mental health disorders are often labeled as crazy or problematic or weird by society, and we are here today to try and change that. So, what is mental health? Textbooks define mental health as a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. But what does this mean? Like physical health, mental health fluctuates. Mental illnesses can affect parts of your brain, affecting cognition, perception, and emotion regulation, but by varying degrees. They range from depression, anxiety, PTSD, bipolar, ADHD, and in severe cases even schizophrenia or psychosis. Unfortunately, mental health remains a taboo in many places. Those who seek help are often dismissed as crazy or problematic, but mental health conditions are illnesses too, just like asthma or diabetes, that require care. Sadly, 70% of people worldwide don't receive the treatment they need. According to The Citizen, in Tanzania alone, many people choose to suffer in silence. In 2022, 5.4 out of every 100,000 Tanzanians died by suicide due to issues like anxiety, depression, and substance abuse. This silence and suffering comes from the stigma around mental health. But what is stigma? It is a mark that society associates with certain traits or qualities. For mental health, the disgrace is the condition itself, unfairly placed upon the person struggling with it. Mental illnesses can affect anyone, of any age, any gender, any background, whatever your identity. But yet, many still falsely assume that mental illnesses are caused by laziness or simply a weak mindset. Yes, some people may be more prone to mental illnesses due to genetics or lifestyle, but that doesn't make mental health conditions any less serious or all the same. Research shows that adolescence is a prime time for the onset of severe mental health disorders like psychosis in teens. Yet, most affected children are seen as weird or outcasts by their peers. WHO estimates that this is the fate of 1 in 7 10 to 19-year-olds. Now, what can stigma arise from? Stigma arises from a lack of awareness and spread of misinformation. With around 5.1 billion people surfing the internet, bound to have their own views and voices, negative attention from media perpetuates these harmful stereotypes, making the fight against stigma a challenge. More so when violent, dramatic, and inaccurate depictions of mental illnesses by the media tend to attract greater attention from the public. But we may also argue that social media can be a powerful ally in this race. Campaigns, collaborations, supportive online communities, and open discussions can foster empathy and understanding. It can provide platforms for many to reach out with their own mental health struggles with the world, making people feel heard and understood. In this digital age, it is truly up to us to absorb the best from what we see. When we have the mental health awareness to recognize harmful stereotypes and separate fact from fiction, we empower ourselves and those around us to a greater extent than we can imagine. Culture also plays a significant role in mental health stigma. The ideas, customs, and social behavior of the people around us play a significant role in shaping how people feel about their mental health and just their general outlook to life. Different cultures have different understandings of mental health. In certain cultures, openly expressing their emotions is more acceptable and seen as a natural way of life, while in others, people are expected to show emotional constraint due to a lack of conceptual understanding needed to understand these non-tangible illnesses. This cultural difference can influence how we handle stress and bounce back from the setbacks we encounter. Additionally, there tend to be some cultures that prioritize individualism, while others emphasize community and interdependence. These cultural perspectives can affect how we perceive ourselves in relation to others and how much help we are willing to receive when facing challenges. In many traditional cultures, mental health issues are often viewed as spiritual, requiring religious intervention rather than medical care. It can even lead to some extent of practicing exorcism, and this keeps people from seeking the help they need. Even in places with better health care, cultural attitudes continue to stigmatize mental health. Mental health care professionals face challenges everywhere, especially in rural areas, where mental illness is a difficult concept to understand. When people do seek help, they're not always able to access the appropriate medication, insurance coverage, or trained professionals. 10 years ago, WHO reported that in Tanzania, there were just 0.04 psychiatrists, 0.007 psychologists, and 0.01 social workers per 100,000 Tanzanians. Figures that have improved since but still remain far too low. My mother, a clinical psychologist who is here today, has worked tirelessly to change this. I've watched her give countless presentations, join radio programs, counseling her patients, often having to convince them to stay in treatment. Many of our clients go to great extent to mask their association and their mental health struggles. Some travel long distances, others use false names during prescriptions. Even now, around 56% of people experiencing mental health issues globally feel ashamed to admit so. A further 70% report discrimination in workplace, family events, and social gatherings, often by their own relatives or friends. This can lead to autophobia, a fear of seclusion, that discourages people worldwide from seeking the help they need. There are several types of stigma. We have self-stigma. This is when individuals with the mental health conditions internalize the societal judgments, making themselves feel shame or like outcasts. There is workplace stigma, where many fear disclosing their mental health issues at work due to concerns about job security or differential treatment. In fact, 63% of people report discrimination in the workplace. Considering 15% of the general workforce experiences mental health struggles, this is so beyond significant. There is also professional stigma. Mental health care providers too face stigma. For instance, my mother's clients will sometimes avoid acknowledging her in public to avoid any association with the mental health field. Each and every form of stigma intensifies isolation and discourages openness about mental health, perpetuating silence when support is needed most. So, now that we understand the problem, what can we do about it? What role can we as a society play against this? It is time to change our approach and modernize our vision. People tend to fear what they don't understand, leading to avoidance from addressing mental health issues with an open mind. It is time to change that. The more people know about this global crisis and the necessary actions needed, the more likely we are able to provide support to the people who need it. Firstly, we need to raise awareness. It is crucial to use platforms like social media, talks like these, public campaigns to educate people. Simply wearing a green ribbon can symbolize solidarity and help raise awareness. It should be an ongoing effort to reduce the stigma and the associated misconceptions, leading to people to be more comfortable to talk about the topic freely. Next is acceptance. This is a two-way process. People must be willing to seek help, and society must be willing to accept them. We need to advocate for acceptance together, because acceptance is the foundation of a stigma-free world. Lastly is action. We need to build strong support systems consisting of family, friends, and professionals to normalize and promote conversations around mental health, ultimately building trust within the community. When someone shares their struggles with you, be mindful of your approach, educate yourself, and support them to the best of your ability. Choosing respectful, accurate language is crucial for overcoming fractured lenses and changing perceptions. Misconceptions such as seeking help is a sign of failure, or that only the most severe and visible mental illnesses require medical intervention, need to be extinguished to make the picture crystal clear. When we shift the way we talk about mental health, we can replace outdated notions, creating an environment where individuals feel supported, accepted, and encouraged to take care of their mental well-being at every stage of their mental health journey. Changing the narrative starts with how we speak about it.